The alarm was lifted before long, and I went to eat as planned. I took the elevator down to the food court. It was still early. There were few people. Across the wide space, individuals sat alone with drinks, silently working at their terminals. I entered a salad shop filled with color. Inside the display case, vegetables were arranged in careful rows: dark red, pale blue, colors that did not seem natural. A plate scattered with fruit and nuts looked the safest. I placed it on a tray and moved to the register. The young clerk said nothing. She poured on an orange sauce, then circled it with a yellow one. After that, she added a plate that looked like roast chicken, some bread, and a glass filled with green liquid, as if it were routine. Her expression seemed bored. The total on the display was surprisingly low. I hesitated, but it appeared to be normal here. I sat at an empty seat and ate. It tasted far better than it looked. The orange sauce was slightly spicy, with a sharp acidity. The yellow one was clearly sweet. Both were unfamiliar. They went well with the chicken. I thought I should have asked for more. The green juice had an artificial sweetness, but it was not bad. By the time I finished, more people had arrived. About half the seats were filled. Many were alone, but there were families as well. I had heard that several thousand people lived in this tower, that it contained schools and even government offices. I walked through the clothing and sundries shops on the same floor, but found nothing I wanted. I decided to return to my room. Outside the window, the sun was setting. The sky slowly sank into purple. I took a black jacket and pants from the closet and changed. 10 minutes before the appointment, I left the room with a bag of equipment. I took the elevator to the floor where the client's facility was located. On the way, I saw outside through the glass and realized we were below sea level. There was no sense of pressure. If someone had said it was an image, I would have believed them. When I arrived, I stepped into a circular space. Half of it was a cafe. About 10 people stood talking, drinks in hand. In front of them was a large directory panel, showing that several amusement facilities were gathered on this floor. A well-known sports-focused chain, a music and theater hall, and a facility using my company's VR machines. I selected my destination without checking the reservation. From behind the panel, a small transport cart appeared. It was the standing type. When I gripped the handle, it started moving on its own. A translucent door opened quietly. Inside was a straight corridor. At the end, it split in two. I turned left. It seemed to follow the outer edge of the circular structure. A large window stretched across the corridor. Beyond them, the dark sea drifted into view. Shadows of plants, rock-like masses. Thin, glowing fish passed by slowly. After a few minutes, we arrived. I stepped off the cart. It returned the way it had come, without a sound. At the counter, a young woman in uniform was speaking with an older man in a suit. When they noticed me, the man approached with a smile. "You're from Al," he said. He introduced himself as Andu, the facility manager. Since there were still users inside, he asked me to wait about 20 minutes. He led me to a small office in the back. Beyond it, I could see the equipment room. "If you like, you can look around inside while you wait." It was one way, he said. I would not encounter other users. At the mention that it might help with configuration, I nodded and headed for the VR room. At reception, I was given a blue silicone wristband and goggles. When I put them on, the entrance door opened quietly. Inside, it was dark. Near my ear, a calm female voice began to guide me. After a few steps, I sensed the door closing behind me. A faint light appeared ahead. Part of a glass panel rose into view. Fish were swimming on the other side. When I reached out, a cold sensation returned to my hand. I thought it might be an actual window of the building. As I moved forward, my body met resistance. The smell of salt, I understood that the setting placed me underwater. Of course, this was virtual. Fish slipped past my body. When I touched a rock, it felt rough. There was no sense of up or down. No sense of distance. The sea stretched on without end. Please look to your left. A glowing mass. A school of countless small fish. Blue and orange. Black and yellow stripes. I reached out. They brushed my hand and scattered. It tickled. I followed the school. The ground sloped gently downward. The water darkened. Algae and rocks increased. There was almost only one way forward. Your time is up. The scenery faded. In the darkness, a white arrow appeared. The resistance of the water disappeared. Soft music played. The exit. I removed the goggles. The dim lighting brightened in stages. It took a moment for my vision to return to real colors. The woman from reception approached. Andy stood beside her. How was it? I don't see any problems with the setup. I paused. You mentioned it was only part of the course. What comes after that? Andu nodded and glanced toward the panel. There are no major changes. The underwater environment shifts gradually. Creatures appear at certain points. It's a tour format. This sea here? Yes, it's based on actual diving tours conducted nearby. Even with the real sea so close, there's still demand. There is. He answered at once. In fact, because of that. Families with young children. Older people. It's safe. And it reliably gives the feeling of being in the sea. Because of sea level risks. That too. But the main reason is the life down there. Dangerous fish and mammals have been confirmed. There are many things whose nature we still don't know. In the real ocean, there's too much we can't experience. After that, he explained the course variations. Seas modeled on other planets, imaginary fish, characters for children, corporate collaborations, and more adventurous programs, such as exploring a wrecked ship. But if we increase realistic characters, or try to control progression too precisely, errors become more likely. We've heard the same from other facilities, I said, as the manual required. This update should improve things to some extent. I'll explain the details in tomorrow's meeting. We moved to the equipment room. I opened my bag and connected the terminal. I stopped all virtual output and began the hardware check. At the same time, I reviewed the main system configuration and adjusted the update settings. There were no major issues. I added the circuit board I had brought and ran another check. We might consider additional upgrades later. They would be expensive, and a decision would not come quickly. During the work, Andu looked into the room. A small refreshment, he said. He handed me a green juice. It tasted the same as the one I have had at the food court. It seemed common here. The setup finished slightly ahead of schedule. The update began. I'll come back in a few hours to check on things. Thank you, Andu said. I'll be on duty for another 2 hours. After that, a robot will handle it. I returned to the lobby and passed time at the cafe. I replied to messages and skimmed my usual media. A notification arrived on my terminal. I went back to the facility. This time the lights were low. There was no sign of people. A robot approached. Employees and authorized personnel, please present your ID. Once recognized, the lights came on and the office door opened. On the monitor were several minor errors. Within expectations, I addressed them and ran another check. 20 minutes later, the update was complete. After finishing the operational test, I left the office. The robot approached again. Ms. Mihara, is today's work complete? Yes, there are no problems. Thank you for your work. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow at 9 a.m. I boarded the cart and left the facility. When I looked back, the lights had been dimmed. The entire space was sinking quietly into darkness.